Welcome to the Simple Doesn't Mean Easy podcast. We are here every week working at simplifying things in our lives one day at a time, one simple step at a time. I'm your host, Rachelle Visser, and today's episode is for you if you are interested in just small lifestyle changes that can make a huge impact. Today's episode is for you if you find holistic health at least intriguing and want to know a little more about it. And it's also definitely for you if you're interested in herbal remedies. I think you're going to be very fascinated with our really lovely guest today. Her name is Rachelle Robinett. She is a writer, an herbalist, an educator, and a longtime naturalist. She's the founder of multidisciplinary companies dedicated to the art and science of natural wellness, combining traditional medicine and current health insights with an understanding of individual behavior modification. Rachelle has provided accessible plant-based healing to countless people, and she's based in New York and Costa Rica. So join me. Let's welcome Rachelle. Before we dive in, I want to tell you one place to go to find a whole lot of really cool things that you guys are often asking me about over on Instagram or on YouTube videos. I have fermenting springs that you're always asking, what am I doing with those? And I have two different kinds of lids. I cannot imagine bulk food storage without these fantastic lids that truly keep your food safe from the rodents and fresh. Great lids. And my tea strainer that I use in my mason jar, you guys are always asking me to find out more about that. And whenever I talk about sprouting, all the sprouting things that I get, the seeds, the trays, everything, I get them here, True Leaf Market. And I have a special code for you guys. Don't miss this code. It's very limited time. And it's not often that I have something like this. Go to soulyrested.com/cover, COVER. And there you will find the True Leaf cover crops that I love, as well as all these things I just mentioned and that sweet savings code, soulyrested.com/cover. Don't miss out, guys. Well, Rachelle, I am so excited to have you here today. Your book is beautiful and it's so filled with so much encouragement. And I want to dive in. So first of all, introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are,
Yeah.
what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I am Rachelle Robinett, an author and herbalist, longtime educator in natural health. And naturally, the Herbalist Guide to Health and Transformation is really this capstone project that includes my life to date's work in the field of herbalism and natural health, and really just concepts and practices for living a better life, living our best lives naturally. And there's a long backstory to how I got there, which I'm happy to share, but I'll keep that intro short for now.
Okay. Yeah, I would actually love to know your backstory. So, your book is written, I've heard you say, for beginners and for the herb curious. I like that phrase. And I love that it's such a holistic approach to health. I mean, you even have a little section you're talking about movement and how
Mm.
important that is, and
Mhm.
another section about living purposefully and how important that is. So, it's not just about what herbs should I grow or what
Mm.
herb can I put in my tea. There's so much here. In fact, I want to read just a sentence from your book that I read this and I thought this literally embodies what we're all about here on this podcast. On page 152 of Naturally, you wrote, "The life renewals that become possible once we commit to making even the smallest health edit, something as seemingly small as drinking more water or eating an extra vegetable a week, are unlimited." So good. So
Thank you.
true.
Yeah, it is so true. Yeah, I've seen that change lives countless times. My practice has always been about one small step at a time. And when we do that, those accumulate over time, sometimes very quickly, sometimes over the course of many years. But if we want transformation, it is available to us. And that is the way that I've seen it happen in my own life and in all of my clients and communities' lives. It's so powerful. And it's really impressive that it's available and that it's so, it can be so profound. And yet the way to it is by such small changes, by such small adjustments. It's by baby steps. It really, really is. We don't have to jump into the deep end. We can, but that's usually a recipe for us like climbing back out of the water as quickly as possible and getting back on dry land. That's the fad diet and the trend chasing approach. But these small changes, when we make them, they really do change a life and a mind and a body and a spirit.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
everybody else in our life is
Yes.
impacted by it too, especially as moms, right? I mean,
Yes.
wow. And stress and burnout is at an all-time high. I can't
Mhm.
imagine it's ever been worse than what we face today. And modern
Mhm.
medicine, they can't give us calm. In fact, they
Mhm.
do the opposite, right? Like
Mhm.
modern medicine makes me stress sometimes, but herbalism and natural choices can seriously bring us that. They can give us a release from the stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beautiful thing about herbalism is that it supports us anytime, all the time. It's preventative medicine, which is huge. And it can also help us in the moment when we need that calm and we want it naturally. And it can help us after the fact to recover from that stress
Mm.
or to recover from that burnout and help prevent it or minimize it in the future. So it's really, it's holistic and it's meant to support us throughout the entire journey of our lives, of every day and of our entire life. So that's something that I really love about it, and I like to try to encourage and teach people to think about it in that way, as opposed to just what's the herb for the ailment, because when we're thinking in that way, we're sort of thinking in the modern Western medical approach. What's the pill for the ill? And of course, yes, there are herbs for stress and there are herbs for anxiety, but we really need to be thinking about the causes of the stress and anxiety and then asking, what are the natural solutions for those causes, the natural cures for those causes. That also helps us grow a better degree of self awareness, relationship with our body. We learn how to listen to ourselves better. We learn to understand what the symptoms are saying. So there's so much medicine and herbalism that has nothing to do with the actual plant medicine as well.
Mm.
It's the
Mm.
rituals around the practices. It's the skills of listening to ourselves. It opens up so much more than just a natural relief for anxiety.
Such a good point. I
Yeah.
unfortunately I do think that in the modern world we see that as harder though. I
Mm.
think we really like to just have a script written and a pill we take once a day, and it's harder to do what you're talking about.
It may be harder. I definitely am sympathetic to that point. And as you've probably seen in Naturally, there are more than a couple times when I mentioned that some degree of discomfort is inherent in the healing process. And while it may be easier to just have a prescription and take a pill, the long term effects of that, or the long term healing, and look, I'm definitely not against some of what modern medicine has available for us. Sometimes we
For
we
sure.
do need those prescriptions, we do need the antibiotics, we certainly need surgery and these sorts of things. So by no means do I think that those things are always inappropriate. But very, very often they're just medicating a symptom and they're not treating the cause. And if we want true healing and if we want true balance and we want to be holistically well, then we really do need to get to the cause of things and address the cause, however best. And that may be medication, and that may be herbs, and that may be diet and lifestyle changes. It could be any of these things. But yeah, it may require a little bit of work, but I would argue that in the long run, it'll be more rewarding, certainly. and possibly also less work because we're not constantly trying to keep up with all of these symptoms that keep popping up because we have not addressed the cause of them. So it may be a little more
Such a good
discomfort or
point.
effort at first, but long term, I
Such a
think,
good point.
yeah, yeah.
And, we're not thinking if we think that just popping a pill daily is a solution, we're not thinking about a couple different things. One, that is not getting, like you said, to the root in any way,
Mm,
shape, or form.
yeah,
And second of all, we're not thinking about all the extra difficulties we face, the ramifications of that medicine,
yeah,
right? So
certainly.
herbalism doesn't give us that.
No, yeah. The side effects of the herbs that we use are generally also all positive. So we might take an herb for stress or anxiety relief and then also get anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefits. And,
Right.
we're supporting our longevity and our brain health and our gut at the same time, our sleep. Yeah, all the
So if herbs had warning labels, it would be warning. Your gut might improve, your
Yes.
sleep might improve, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Your life might change for the better.
Yeah, warning.
Yeah.
So what about herbalism? If you were on the rooftops and everybody could hear you for a few minutes, what would you want everyone to know about herbalism?
Mm. Well, that is certainly why I wrote this book. I want people to know that herbalism is available to all of us, that it used to be a part of all of our lives. It was a lifestyle. It is not something new. It is not something outdated. It is something that grows all around us and is probably in our kitchens already, our gardens already, our backyards. And it's in our lineages. And I think that I believe that herbalism is something that maybe I can say most most people are looking for and may not realize it. It is a way to be healthier naturally. It is a way to relate with ourselves in a more healthy way. It's a way to reconnect with nature and the truth that we are part of nature. It is a truly, truly holistic, personalized, natural medicine that exists all around us. Um, that is, I think, and that it is possible to begin working with it simply because I know a lot of people feel like
Mm,
there's a big barrier to entry, in beginning
yeah.
to work with herbalism. And again, that's why I wrote this book. I really want to show that it's possible with one very small step at a time to bring this into your life and that it doesn't ever have to be complicated and it doesn't ever have to mean that you need to learn how to make your own tinctures or complicated teas or these sorts of things. It can be very, very simple and transformative at the same time.
Mm.
Love that question.
So, yeah, that's fantastic. So literally just learning to grow one herb and how to put it in our dishes that we're making in the kitchen can truly be transformative.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
even learning to buy that herb at a grocery store or a farmer's market
Such a good point.
if you're
Thank
not,
you. It's
yeah.
even more simple than I said. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
I
I
like to
always
make
have
it
to
as
complicate
as
things.
simple as possible, unless you're keen to grow things or to forage or to make your own medicine. But I always like to tell people you don't have to still work with
Such a good
herbalism. You
point.
don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what else are common misconceptions do you think about herbalism?
Yeah, there's a common misconception that herbs are dangerous. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, Google tells us that. If I Google something about what herb will help with blank, they tell you, but just warning, and
Yeah.
they give you a lot of warning. So, why is that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I definitely I think at this point there's so much conflicting information on the internet and in the wellness industry. I think the wellness industry and the sort of and even the industry of health that predated the wellness industry is constantly doing a sort of back and forth. This is good for you. Now this the exact same thing is not good for you. This is the type of diet, eat as much protein as possible. No, eat as much, eat as little protein as possible. Like it just constantly does this sort of flip-flop thing. And that's a tactic to sell whatever it is.
I was just going to say, comes
Yeah.
back to money.
Yeah,
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 it does.
absolutely. So there's a lot of conflicting information, and I think that's why we need to go to high quality sources for information on the safety of anything, but herbs in particular, again, why I wrote this book. And, we can look at scientific studies. I love to read scientific studies, but I understand that not everyone likes to do that. So, look for herbalists who've written books, look for organizations like the American Herbalist Guild, try to get as with our bodies, try to get as close to the source as possible if you're trying to understand the safety of a certain ingredient. But in general, many, 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 many herbs are actually foods. And we can start with foods if we have any sort of hesitation about the safety of herbs. Turmeric, garlic, ginger, all the culinary herbs we work with, sage, rosemary, thyme, oregano. There's lavender, there's blueberries are considered an herb. We have mushrooms.
Really?
Yeah. And when we say herb, it's really any sort of natural functional ingredient. So there are even bones
Hmm.
and shells that are used in herbalism. You have resins from trees.
Hmm.
So herb is a pretty broad term. It's kind of a medicinal ingredient that comes from nature. But in terms of the safety of herbs, the generalization is that most of what's available on the market today, especially from high quality providers, is safe. And if anybody is taking pharmaceutical medication or birth control, then it's certainly they should check with a healthcare provider before mixing herbs with that. But again, herbs used to be part of our daily lives. And this was prior to scientific studies and Google and anything else, when we were ingesting these herbs as a part of our daily lifestyle. And there's also great science for people who like that validates, the truism that like negative herb interactions are highly uncommon. Oftentimes, the way herbs interact with medications is not even a direct interaction. I think we have this idea that it's like the herb and the drug kind of get in an argument in our bodies and cause this like
Right. Right.
cause a big problem. But often it's, for example, an herb is making the liver function better. And so the liver is detoxifying that drug at a quicker rate than usual. And so the
Interesting.
drug becomes less effective. So that's an example of a
Uh-huh.
very common herb drug interaction, but it's not like, in that sense, it's not harmful, but yes, it has an impact on the efficacy of the drug that we may not want to be
Right.
the case. So,
Right.
yeah, but
Hmm.
generally herbalism is quite safe. And, again, from high quality providers, what's available on the market today, taken as directed, is no less safe than taking your vitamin C supplements or your multivitamin or your probiotics or anything else that we tend to trust. I mean, we have more trust in over the counter medications than we do in, herbal supplements. And I would like to, try to adjust that. So,
Yes, for sure. And I mean, the
yeah,
medicines could only be a few decades old. And like you said,
yeah,
with herbs, they've literally been around from the beginning of time and
yeah,
they're growing in nature. So why are we not trusting them?
yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I want to pause for a second and update you on my Blue Alpine freeze dryer. I've been using it for a few weeks now. And while the initial reasons I went with Blue Alpine all still ring true, it's a small family business I can get behind. And the food gets dried 25 to 50% faster than the competition. But I now have a few more things to add to my list. I have found out that not only do they build their machines from the ground up in Idaho, they actually have a goal of getting every single part manufactured here in the US. I love that. I also quickly realized that I need many trays to prepare my batches and pre freeze different foods. So I love it that I can use my standard sized large cookie trays. No other machines that I researched allow you to do that. I was also so intimidated the first time I went to use the machine. It was 4 o'clock on a weekday and I decided to just call customer service. They were fantastic. Such a friendly, knowledgeable guy walked me through everything and he was just great. So, if you are looking to potentially get a freeze dryer, go check out bluealpinefreezedryers.com and be sure to use code solely rested. So, do you find yourself sacrificing quality in the name of non toxic, especially when it comes to personal care items, beauty products, soaps, lotions, all that good stuff? Well, guys, those days are over because I absolutely love everything that I use from hearthandhomesteadstore.com. Go to solelyrested.com/soap, SOAP, if you'd like to see all my personal favorites. These are items I use on repeat that I would have not have in my home. And these things, every ingredient is all natural. They are truly legit, clean products that do what they promise. They are such high quality. Go to solelyrested.com/soap. So, what can and can't herbalism treat if you're
Yeah.
thinking about our health and our lives?
Yeah. So herbalism can really support us and treat in a supportive sense just about anything, even if we do need to use, pharmaceuticals or surgery or antibiotics or these certain things. We can still be using herbs before, possibly during that process, and definitely after that process. We need surgery, for example. We break a bone or something like that. We can use herbs after the fact to help improve that healing process, and then long term to maybe strengthen the health of our musculoskeletal system, improve our bone health and these sorts of things. But I would say that herbs can be supportive. Herbs can treat, if you will, essentially anything that we're looking for support with. And that can be something as straightforward as sleep, indigestion, headaches, hormone imbalance. And it can also be the sort of softer, more nuanced, needs that we have as humans, like grief or heartache or, low mood, existential distress, or anything that's a little bit less kind of functional, practical, and more intuitive or energetic or, personal. So I really like to encourage people to think, of herbs as a possibility in just about any instance when we're looking for something. We are looking to snack less or eat less sugar. We're looking for maybe we're looking for a drink. It could be coffee or alcohol. Well, herbs can do both of those things as well, and it doesn't
Yeah.
mean we have to give up coffee or alcohol, but maybe we swap one cup or one glass of each for something herbal instead. They're really, it's funny. I keep looking around because there are herbs all around me in all these different forms. And I feel like that is one way that we can live with them. We can carry an essential oil in our pocket. We can have a tincture on our desk. We can have a little sprig of fresh mugwort in some water here. We can eat
Mhm.
them. We can bake with them. We can bathe in them. We can walk in
Mhm.
them. I think once we start to realize how we are surrounded by herbalism, it's like the whole world opens up and we realize that these friends, these allies from the natural world are just within arm's reach. And I
Mhm.
live in New York City, most of the time.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
understand what it can feel like to have very minimal access to greenery. And yet, here I am as an herbalist.
That's
So,
so great. And I mean, you just listed so many everyday ways that all of us either
mm,
are or can be practicing herbalism,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome.
Baths, aromatherapy, incense, cooking. Yes,
Mm. That's so
walking
true.
outside.
Just
Yes,
fixing up dinner. I'm being an
you
herbalist.
are. You already are. It's the first line in the book. We're all herbalists. We really are.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. And also, just in case anyone listening is wondering, you give very hands on practical recipes
Mm,
for a lot of the things you literally just said. So the
yeah.
book has it all.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a recipe section. And there's a section in the back that I'm really excited about for people, and that's this herb use table. That is a very quick reference for somebody who says, okay, I want to use lavender or ashwagandha. What do I need to know about it? And it just
Mm.
clearly points to, well, the best form to take it in is this. Here's a dosage recommendation, and here's any like nice to know notes. That is a resource that I have not seen in herbalism, and I think will be very, very useful for anyone who has a copy of this book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I hadn't turned to the back yet. I mean,
There's a lot back
I'm in the
there.
middle right now.
Yeah.
I just turned to the back as you're talking about it, and I'm
Yeah.
blown away. I want to spend like a day studying these charts. Oh my word. Okay, but one question I have as I'm glancing through here, has this not been done because so many herbs answer so many things and check so many boxes? It's
Yeah.
really hard to put that in a chart, isn't it?
It's very true. Yeah, and that kind of leads to the structure for the whole book. So I organize this whole book based on herbal categories. And we have thousands of herbs available to us, and like you said, they all do a lot of things. They also have there's a sort of hierarchy to their functions. There'll be a primary category. So this herb is primarily an adaptogen. Like most of all, what it does is help rehabilitate our stress response system. So that herb's categorized as an adaptation. It might also be a nootropic, which is great for brain health. It might also be a nervine, which is good for the nervous system. It might also have benefits for gut health. That could be a bitter or a carminative herb, but primarily it's an adaptogen. So each chapter in the book is dedicated to a category of herbs and explains what that means. And that table is based on that approach as well, which is the
Okay.
primary action. And then the notes section in the table might list like it's also calming, or it's also a bitter, or it combines well with these herbs. So that's how we, yeah, make sense of the many, many benefits of every plant.
This chart, I tell you, I mean, it's really fantastic. I can't believe I'm not usually a person who doesn't flip through the whole book. I can't even tell you why. I think
That's
it's because,
okay.
like, your book, as soon as I got it and put it in my hands, it felt so old fashioned. It felt like
Mm,
something I'd pulled off of my grandmom's shelf. And
mm.
I just wanted to start reading it. And for some reason, I had no urge to flip to the back and read the end first. And I should have.
No, I love it. It's a nice little surprise once you get there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost a book within a book. It's like the whole book is written, and then you get to the back and there's that visual guide. Here's all the
Yeah.
herbs we just talked about, and now you can just see them in a table and reference it quickly. It was really important to me. Um
Wow. And it goes on for pages and pages. I mean, this is a large
yes.
section. It's
Yes, it does.
fantastic.
Yeah, I included a lot of extra herbs in the table because there are so many, and I wasn't able there's no way to write about all of them. So, and all the
Yeah.
herbs that I included are the most widely available, the most accessible, the most well tolerated, the safest, all these things. Kind of the classics, the
Yeah.
greatest hits, if you will, of herbalism. So
I love it. Well, I tell you what,
I'm
guys,
so
if you're
glad.
hesitating about buying a copy of Naturally, you want it for the greatest hits of the herbs table, if nothing else.
To
So
start
go
saying
get a
that.
copy. Everybody listening. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm convicted that I'm going to ask you if we can chat again in our next week episode about getting a little bit more details about this chart and the
Yeah.
different categories. Will we be able to do that?
Absolutely. I would
Okay.
love it.
Fantastic. Okay, so before we wrap this up, then I have to ask you, how did you come to herbalism and tell us
Mm.
that backstory that you mentioned right when we started?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest on a farm. My father worked in Western medicine. He was an anesthesiologist and had a surgery center there. And my mom still works as a functional health practitioner. So I had very early exposure to a lot of nature. I couldn't see my nearest neighbor. I was out there with my brothers in the fields, just
Mm.
having a relationship with the natural world. And I was exposed to, of course, medicine, surgery, the body, health, nutrition, supplements, anything and everything that my parents already knew. And that was all fascinating to me, but I wasn't inclined to make it my career. I was very interested in really the easiest way to describe it is, I was interested and fascinated by the human experience. I wanted to understand why it is and how exactly it is that all of these things that we take in through our senses affect our experience of reality. Why is it that light affects us in a certain way? Why is it that when I eat wild huckleberries or mushrooms or something, why is it that those do what they do in my body? So that was my fascination. And I went on to study the world's healing traditions and spirituality. And from the time I was very, very young, I was just reading everything I could get my hands on. And I remember doing a school report on acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine when I was in maybe middle school or something like that, and
Huh.
just fascinated with it. And my mom would take me to all the health food stores, which all, they all have the same smell, which I love. And she's like, whatever book you're interested in, whatever essential oil you're interested in, she was like supportive of my doing, spells in the backyard. And I was just exploring. And long story short, I moved to New York City to work in fashion. And that was the dream
Wow.
I had. It was very, very different from what my parents were doing and what I am ultimately doing now. And I did that. I worked in New York in fashion and I loved it. And then there became a point when I realized that I was finished with that goal, that aspiration. And I was kind of assessing my life and myself. And, I had maintained these studies and these explorations and these practices as part of my personal life all the way through. So I would come home from, fashion. I'd take off my high heels and my lipstick and everything else and go into this little apothecary that I had and make tinctures and, continue doing spells and explore herbalism. And I was, taking classes on the weekends and doing all these things. So long story short, I transitioned at that point into, and essentially for me, it felt like kind of coming out. It was like I was coming out of the closet as who I really was. Like this has always been who I am, and this is what I do when I'm not on the clock. I am, fascinated with nutrition and nature and herbalism and the spiritual aspects of all of this, and I started my companies at that point. And that was over 10 years ago. And I've been working, in herbalism ever since. And that included just about everything that it can. I had a private practice for many, many years. I had a cafe and apothecary, multiple product lines, retail, e-commerce, tons of classes and workshops and retreats and content and media. And now this
Wow.
book, and it's all in naturally. I really put everything in that book. So
Wow.
that's my story in a nutshell. Yeah.
That's fascinating. And I'm still wondering what your 7th grade teacher, or whatever grade it was, thought about when everybody else had the reports about, horses and dolphins, and you
Yeah.
came in with acupuncture.
Yeah, it was like moxibustion, and I know I should find that report. My mom probably still has it, and bless her
She
because she
probably
was
does.
like, "Okay, honey, yep, we'll go." I mean, she introduced me to a lot of the holistic, medicine and practices like that. So certainly, she introduced me to the idea of acupuncture. So
Interesting. Now,
yeah.
what was it like for an anesthesiologist to be married to the naturopath? How did that work?
Well, they didn't. They weren't married very long.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, I was about 3 when they divorced. So I had
Oh,
mom's house and dad's house, and they were different. Yeah.
okay.
Fair
So you still
question.
got both worlds though.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, this has been fascinating. I'm looking forward to talking again in our next episode. And for now, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yes, thank you so much. I have my website where everything is. That's RachelleRobinett.com. I highly recommend signing up for our newsletter there. We have a free newsletter where we send out weekly herbalism information. And then, of course, I'm on Instagram at Rachelle Robinett. The best, most important thing to do would be to pick up a copy of Naturally, the Herbalist Guide to Health and
Yes,
Transformation. It's all there.
definitely. And the greatest hits table in the back.
Yes, exactly.
Great. Well, thanks
Beautiful.
so much.
Yes, thank you, Michelle.
Thanks for listening, friends. Remember, it's easy to forget how blessed we are to live this life. So enjoy the simple, everyday efforts. It's not always easy, but it is definitely a good life.